Hey everybody, it's ScomletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today I'll be playing another Arena Cube draft. This is the format that we're drafting from a curated list of the strongest cards on Arena, a bunch of rares and mythics. As such, it is a phantom draft format. We won't be keeping any of the cards we draft. We'll just be drafting for the fun of the format as well as the prizes on the event tracker. So without further ado, let's see what we want to take out of this first pack. This is a pretty weak, kind of weird first pack. There's a lot of mana. There's all these lands. There's this Cold Steel Heart. There's like a treasure map, which is kind of just a decent little filler card for any deck. Just gives you some scry and maybe some treasures. Nothing that's like super powerful that really makes me want to go for a specific strategy. We've got Domri for Gruul, Ayara for like mono black, because that's a very restrictive cost there. We could start by taking Ayara here and then hoping to wheel Grey Merchant and maybe being able to go for the Black Devotion deck here, or take the Grey Merchant and hope to wheel Ayara. That's probably the safer pick if we're trying to go mono black. The strongest card that would be the easiest to play would probably be Legion Warboss, because this will be good in any aggro deck that has red in it, red-white, red-green, red-black, anything like that. It's a pretty powerful card. There's also like Dryad if I just want to play a more multicolored deck. I think I'm going to go with Legion Warboss here. Did play a Gary, good old Grey Merchant in the last deck that I drafted, so change things up a little bit here, go for the red card out of this pack. Pick 2, we have some incredible options. I have no idea what the Alchemy Garruk does. Looks okay, but not massively good. Yeah, we're just gonna probably not take that. So there's Den of the Bugbear, which is gonna make one of our lands be able to turn into a creature and beat our opponent up later in the game, which is nice. Strangle's very efficient removal, so that's also nice in red. We could take one of those, they'd be fine. Neither are massively exciting though, so I'm probably gonna delve into another color here. We could take Jadar or Sedgemoor Witch. Both of these would be good in a Rakdos Sacrifice deck because they both produce some tokens that we can sacrifice. That's a little interesting. There's also Ovenwald Hydra, which is pretty great for a big green rampy deck. It turns into just a really big creature with reach, and it pulls out another land from your deck. So if you manage to get a Field of the Dead or something, it's super awesome. Ovenwald Oddity, it's just a really efficient trampling haste beat stick. There's also Brazen Burrow, which is pretty efficient interaction. I haven't played any blue yet, and I do think Brazen Burrow is pretty good. 2 mana to bounce a non-land permanent, and then 3 mana to get a 3/1 flyer out at instant speed. Really nice card there. Maybe we can start heading into maybe blue-red here, something I haven't done yet. So what do we have now? Some okay red cards like Electrostatic Blast. This can be a removal spell, and then it turns your next instant or sorcery spell into potential card draw. So that's pretty cool. Insult to Injury always feels a little slow. Potentially does a lot of damage with the insult doubling up your damage, but just always feels slow to me. Ox of Agonas, a good way to refill your hand if you're a very aggressive deck where you're going to dump your hand pretty quickly to where on turn 5 it's okay to discard your hand and draw 3. And then there's Suspicious Stowaway, which is a nice little filtering engine that hits your opponent the whole time as well. I do like that quite a bit. I like Stowaway or Electrostatic Blast the most here. Ox is fine. I'm also not tied to anything yet, so I could still just take like Kogla and go for green. Or Bloodchief's Thirst, go for black, but I'm a pretty big fan of Stowaway. I think I want to play around with that here. 2 mana, 1/1 unblockable, draw a card, discard a card every turn. If you flip to Nighttime, it's a 2/1 unblockable. It draws a card every time it hits your opponent. The Nighttime version of Stowaway is really good. So in a deck with a lot of instant speed plays, that's where this is going to be really good, because the more instants you have, the easier it is to just not cast a spell during your turn. So I think this is actually probably pretty good in blue decks in this format, because you've got a lot of instants like Brazen Borrower. We've got a fine counterspell here, Dismiss. It's a 2-for-1 counterspell. A little bit expensive, but the 2-for-1 is a pretty big deal. Being able to counter something and draw a card. Kind of it for blue and red. I mean, Jwari Disruption is also pretty fine. A land or a Force Spike counterspell. Being able to counter something for only 2 mana is pretty good. But then Neutralize is definitely, I think, the most filler of the 3 counterspells. We look at red, we only have Ogre Headhelm, which is really filler. The best card in the pack, if we don't care about the colors, is probably like Salumgar's Command. Is pretty nice. Yeah, I'm not super tied to red. I can take Salumgar's Command here. There's also like Mikaeus for like an aggressive white deck that's pretty good. But Slumgar's Command is a really nice 2-for-1. Very flexible card, very powerful card. Maybe we move more to blue-black than blue-red. Now we have Ojutai's Command for blue-white, Infernal Grasp for black removal. Another very efficient removal spell. Nice instant speed card draw of Opt, or a nice counterspell with Disdainful Stroke. There's also Sap Vitality for removal in black, and Dread Wanderer still in here. Black seems kind of open here. I think we could take Infernal Grasp and maybe commit to moving into blue-black here. This is just incredibly efficient removal. 2 mana and instant speed to destroy target creature. Super, super efficient. You do have to pay some life, but that's not a huge cost. Foul Play is really good if you can kill something with it, but you won't always be able to. Sometimes you'll draw this when your opponent only has 3 power and greater creatures out. Not a massive fan of that. I do like all these other blue cards. They're all pretty cool. Grazilax always felt slow even in draft, even in Adventures in the Forgotten Realm draft. This is probably not very good. Obstructionist is pretty great though. It's kind of similar to Brazen Borrower, just a flash flyer, get it out really cheap. Hermit's quite solid. Counter something unless your opponent pays 3, and then you can recast it from grave. Yeah, Hermit, Obstructionist, Foul Play all seem pretty solid. I think I'm going to go Obstructionist here. Try to have a deck of just like nothing but instants. Even my creatures being creatures with flash that I can play at instant speed. That'll make it really easy to hold up counter spells and other instant speed plays. So we have a blue-black pathway here, which is definitely really good and a pretty high pick because it's going to make it a lot easier to play double blue cards and double black cards without having to worry about our mana not working out. That being said, I am taking it over Thassa's Intervention, which is definitely a good card because this is one of those cards that's really easy to hold up as a counter spell, because if you need to counter something, dump all your mana in this and counter it, and if you don't need to counter something, you can still dump all your mana into this and just draw 2 of them. Draw 2 cards out of the top X. So Intervention is really, really good, but we're not going to wheel the pathway here. I want to get like all the mana fixing I can. I'm going to take it pretty highly here. Take Clearwater Pathway. Now we have Phyrexian Arena for Persistent Card Draw Engine. That being said, we'd want some life gain to work with it ideally, because we already have a little bit of life loss in our deck with Infernal Grasp. I really feel like tapping out for this on turn 3 and against an aggressive deck is a really quick way to lose the game. So I'm not actually super high on that. I might just go Omen of the Sea over that. Maybe even the Hall of Storm Giants, because again, we're not going to wheel any of these cards. There's only 8 cards in here. So we only get the solid card draw or the really nice land that turns into a win condition late game. I'm going to take the land here. I feel like the card draw is more replaceable. We wield Grey Merchant and Ayara. All right, well, Ayara is really just for mono black. Going to be pretty hard to cast. I think I can go Grey Merchant though. This should be fine in blue-black, even if it doesn't drain a million life from our opponent. A 2/4 blocker is kind of a decent size for a blocker, and it will drain some amount, at least stealing 2 life from our opponent. Treasure Map would be pretty good in this deck too though. Cold Steel Heart would be okay. I think it's between probably Treasure Map and Grey Merchant. I'm not super high on Spell Pierce though, but I'm going to go with the Grey Merchant. Alright, Sign in Blood, a little cheap card draw spell. Sure, we have to lose some life to do it, but that's fine. Now, there's an Ox and Electrostatic Blast still in here. There's some solid red stuff. I guess we could still consider that. Take the Electrostatic Blast. That feels best for a blue-red deck. A bunch of blue in here. That's a very good sign. We have the Disruption. That lets us run 1 less land because we can just play the Ruins, or we have the Dismiss, which is a little bit expensive for the card draw, but again, similar to Slumgar's Command. Counterspell plus draw a card. It's a nice 2-for-1. I'm actually going to go Disruption over Dismiss. It'd be a little weird. Now we have Opt and Disdainful Stroke. Even Karuga could technically get run in here. Double blue and 3. But it doesn't seem as good as Opt or Stroke here. Scoop up a Disdainful Stroke. Castle Embreth. If we're going red, Patient Rebuilding could get played in this deck. Kind of a more expensive, slower Phyrexian Arena, but also mills our opponent while we're drawing cards off of it. It's an interesting card for sure. So what do we have? Pack 2. Pick 1. We have Invoke Despair, which is pretty hard to cast. We do have 1 mana fixer right now, the Clearwater Pathway. We have Inscription of Ruin. Very flexible card. Destroy something with mana value 3 or less. Return a cheap creature from grave to battlefield. Or, if we kick this later, we get to do all 3 of these effects, which is pretty good. I think what I want to take here, though, is just going to be the Graveyard Trespasser. This is just a really nice anti-graveyard card, which doesn't matter too much, but it's also a pretty solid, pretty solidly sized body for the mana cost that can gain us some life when it enters the battlefield and attacks, because it's gaining life while it's exiling stuff out of the grave. It's also hard to kill it with any removal. Your opponent will have to discard a card to target it. I think Graveyard Trespasser is just a pretty great card, and I'm going to roll with that here. Now we have Hagra Mauling, which is a land and a removal spell, whichever we need at the time. Pretty big fan of these kind of cards, as you can see by me taking Jwari Disruption earlier. So I think I'll take that here. Mythos of Nethroi is basically just Hagra Mauling, but it costs 1 less mana. It costs a black and 2 instead of 2 black and 2. But I like the flexibility of the Mauling a little better here. Lurrus is fun. Each permanent in your starting deck has mana value 2 or less. How possible is that for us? We don't play Patient Rebuilding, we don't play Grey Merchant, don't play Obstructionist, Borrower's Trespasser, but we could play Slumgar's Command. I guess we're early enough we could try to get Lurrus as a companion. That would be difficult, though, I think, to build around here. I want to do that at some point. I don't know if this is the draft to try to run Lurrus as the companion. Lurrus would be okay main deck, though, worst case scenario. You know what? Sure, I'll take Lurrus here. We'll plan on just main decking it. Okay, if we're going to get a Hullbreaker Horror, we're just going to main deck Lurrus. Then, I was going to say, maybe we somehow get a bunch of mana value 2 or less permanents, and we can just main deck Lurrus. Or we can play Lurrus as the companion, but now we get past an incredible 7-drop. There is no way. There is no way Lurrus is going into the companion zone. Zagoth Triumph would be our best wheel here, a blue-black dual land. Not much else, though. Icy Manipulator, I guess, can tap some things down, try to keep us alive in our more controlling strategy. Whoop. They put the Alchemy Bombs in the cube, so I'm gonna play them. Solemnity Vision's nice, being a spell land. Bolas's Citadel is really great. If you have a lot of life when this hits the board, it's going to draw you a ton of cards and probably win the game pretty quickly. But if you're on the back foot, by the time you cast this, you're already down to 5 to 10 life. It can often just not do enough. Great Shark's really nice too, a counterspell and a creature, but just going to take the Hourglass Coven. This card's so hard to beat, especially if you can return it from your grave, recur it in any way. And they have one of the best audio lines in the game. Okay, a lot of great stuff here. Chartacourse is pretty cheap card draw. Elspeth's Nightmare can be a 3-for-1 if your opponent has small creatures. Leer can let you cast all of your non-counter spells from your graveyard, so all your draw spells and stuff. Only during your turn now, though. Oh yeah, they nerfed Leer a lot for the Alchemy version. A little less interested in that. There's Disallow for a good counterspell. Skyclave Shade doesn't really make sense in here, so it's really just like Disallow or Elspeth's Nightmare, I think. I think I'll go Elspeth's Nightmare. I kind of want to get some more potential black permanents here that could stay on the board. And Disallow is fine, but I already have a few counterspells in here. I don't really need to take more counters that highly. Another incredible permanent here, Torrential Gearhulk, the 6-mana 5/6 flash that recasts an instant from your graveyard for free when it enters the battlefield. So you just drop this, cast another Disdainful Stroke or Dry Disruption or something when it hits the board. Super, super good. Definitely going in the deck. Now we have Exclude to counter a creature and draw a card, or Glasspool Mimic for another spell land card. Mecha Godzilla's okay, Maze Mind Tome's okay. Exclude feels a little narrow to me, only countering creatures. It's a lot of big Planeswalker and non-creature threats. The cube to deal with, it's probably still pretty good though, maybe better than Tome. Yeah, I'll try out the Exclude here, see how it plays for us. Baral's Expertise is a pretty good way to get back into the game after your opponent has had an aggressive start, because you're going to bounce 3 of their permanents back to their hand. That will often bounce pretty much everything they've played if you're casting this on turn 5, and then you're playing your own card, so you can really flip the board state into your favor, kind of change it so now your opponent's on the back foot instead of you. So I'm a pretty big fan of Baral's Expertise. Take it over a Delver of Secrets here. Not much else for a blue-black control deck. But yeah, Baral's Expertise feels pretty good there. Prosperous Thief I don't think makes the most sense in this deck, but Gutter Bones doesn't either. and Platinum Angel's just not a good card. Yes, you can't lose the game until your opponent deals with this, but this is a cube we're talking about. Everybody has plenty removal, especially by turn 7. I'll just take the Prosperous Thief here. We wield the Spectral Sailor and the Pact of Negation. Pact of Negation is fun and cool and great in a combo deck, but I think it's actually the greatest thing ever here. I think Spectral Sailor is actually pretty good for this deck if we have a lot of instant speed stuff to do. You know, we're holding up counterspells and stuff, and this gives us a mana sink to use if we don't cast our counterspells. We can just draw cards instead during our opponent's turn. We wield the Blue-Black Triumph, so we'll take it. We wield the Bolas's Citadel, so I might as well take it. I could take the Blue-Red duel here, though, in case I open a Bolas or something. If they put Bolas back in the cube. But I really did have a lot of fun with Bolas's Citadel in my last deck. And it's great with Grey Merchant, at least, I guess. I don't have a white source, but Restorator of Aegonjo is a very good card, so I'm still going to take that over anything else there. Hangerback Walker, is this slow? Looks slow. I'm just going to take a Shambling Ghast, give us a little early game blocker, and we wheel a white source. Maybe the Restoration of Aegonjo gets splashed in. What do we have now? So we have Karn, which is a card draw engine for any deck, so that's fine. There's Deadly Dispute. Don't feel like we have a lot of expendable stuff to sacrifice for that. Then there's Shadow Spear, but we don't have a high creature count, so it's really between Junji, the Midnight Sky, a big old 5/5 Flying Menace that does have a pretty impactful effect when it dies, or Gale's Redirection, which is really fun, but probably too slow. But I guess the cube is the place you'd want to play this. It's just going to be really, really bad against the aggressive decks, the mono red, the mono white, the Boros, the Rakdos. Against other late game decks, this is hilarious. Counter their spell and then just immediately cast it against them. That should probably wheel. That doesn't seem all that good to me. I'm going to take the Junji, hope to wheel the Gale's Redirection. I don't think Karn's going to wheel either, though. But Karn would be an option theoretically there as well. Alright, I like a Power Word kill. Really efficient removal. I feel like we don't have as much removal as I would hope for still. We've got a bit. Metamorph is a really fun card. Copy anything on the board. Basically any artifact or creature. For only 3 mana if you pay the 2 life. So that's definitely another high pick, but I'm going to go with the Power Word kill over it. Get more removal. Gifted Aetherborn is fine. Alrund's Epiphany is fine. It's not actually the craziest thing ever if you don't have a lot of creatures on board or planeswalkers or anything like that. It does create some creatures to play with, though. Epiphany's probably better than Aetherborn here. But Aetherborn's great with, like, Grey Merchant. It's a 2/3 Death Touch lifelink. It's just so efficient. Gains you a lot of life. It's going to block and get rid of whatever you need to. I feel like I'm pretty loaded up on the high mana cost cards. I'm going to pass this Epiphany. I know a lot of people aren't going to like that. People love their Alrund's Epiphanies, but I really want to make sure I've got a lot of 1s, 2s here. I feel like I have a lot of great 6 mana cards. I already have Gearhulk, Coven, and Hullbreaker Horror to try to close out the game. Don't know if the Citadel's getting played, but these 3 for sure are just absolute game enders at the high costs already. I could splash Tameshi in off of the Godless Shrine, splash in the white ability there. But I think I'll just take some more cheap interaction, Fading Hope, because this will be pretty inconsistent to get this going. I don't think I'm going to run any planes in the deck or anything. Gonti's a really fun card, but a bit slow. We've got a lot of 3s and 5s. I guess I have no 4s, which is kind of funny. But yeah, Fading Hope is just really efficient. I think it's going to be really good at helping us survive against aggressive strategies, which is my biggest fear. Against decks that aren't that aggressive, that are a little bit slower, I feel like I don't need that much more big late game cards, because against those decks, I'll make it to where I can actually cast my counterspells like Exclude and Disdainful Stroke, and my removal will be good against just big threats for my opponent. It's really the really fast aggressive decks that can get in under my spells, start playing things before me. Those are the ones that are going to be a problem. I think there is a Brown Recluse on my wall, so give me a second here while I squish that. Alright, I'm back. Two great options here. Life of Toshiro Umezawa, which is great against the aggro decks. Gain 4 and make a 2/3, or the Pathway here for another white fixer. Poppet Stitcher's fine, but it just makes decayed zombies until you get a lot of tokens on board, so a little inconsistent. I'm going to go for the Life of Toshiro Umezawa. Just really have the anti-aggro deck here. Now we have a Champion of Wits, which is fine. It's card filtering, not card draw, but once you eternalize it, it is card draw. It's draw 2, discard 2, but when you eternalize it later, it's draw 4, discard 2. It's a lot better later. Don't love Mind Rot effects, so I'm not going to play them. Take this Courtyard here for potential white splash. So don't think I'm playing Crypt Breaker, this doesn't feel like a Crypt Breaker deck. And it's definitely not a reality chip deck. Just going to run into a counter spell on top or a removal spell on top we don't want to play. Plus, spending the mana to reconfigure this just doesn't feel like something our deck's going to be doing all that often. So we wield Karn and Gale's Redirection. Karn's definitely the safer, better pick here. We're just going to +1 and -1 Karn all day. Get some card draw out of him. But Gale's Redirection is funny, and I've never cast it before, so I kind of want to play with it. Yeah, you should take Karn here if you're trying to win, but I'm going to take Gale's Redirection. Now we have Thirst for Discovery, I guess. Instant speed card draw. Draw 3, discard a basic. Wield the Alrund's Epiphany. Alright, I guess I will play it. And then blue-red duel. Potentially. Well, Boros aggro's open, but this is all garbage for us. Get rid of Ignition, I guess. Oh, nobody got to play the Coma deck? Coma's insane. If this thing resolves, you just can't win. And it can't be countered, so it'll definitely resolve. It's just gotta survive to where you can spend the 7 mana to drop Coma on board. Okay. So we have 48 cards in here. So we have to cut 8 of them. We're going to cut the red and the white lands, I think. I don't think I'm splashing a Gonjo off of 2 white lands in the deck. Yeah, none of my red cards are that splashable off a single red source. So we'll cut those, drop to just blue and black for sure. What are we going to do here? I think I want to cut some of these 3s and 5s ideally, maybe a little bit of the 2s as well. Don't think I'm going to play Bolas's Citadel in this deck. I don't think I have enough life gain in this deck for this to be that viable. I don't know about it. It is really powerful when it pops off, but again, not sure how often it's going to get to pop off in this deck. Plus, it has a similar problem to the Equipment Jellyfish that I passed, the other card that lets you play cards off the top, which is that it's pretty bad with counterspells, and I'm definitely going to run a few counterspells in this deck, because if you hit a counterspell on top, you can't play it, so it's going to clog up the top of your deck, stop you from drawing more cards as well. Okay, so Prosperous Thief was one of our weaker creatures. It doesn't really do anything with our deck. I guess we could ninjutsu a Life of Toshiro Umezawa back to our hand to recast it, but that's about it. And we have the unblockable Suspicious Stowaway, we have some flyers, so we know we can ninjutsu, but we don't have like any that are super good to bounce back to our hand. I guess like Brazen Barber's fine, put it back in our hand, get a treasure, and then we can petty theft again. We have a bunch of stuff that's fine to ninjutsu, because this is like we could put it back in our hand so we have the ability to counter something again later. But yeah, nothing that's just great to put back in hand. So I don't think I'm playing the Thief here. Just need to cut 6 more cards. It's a lot of cuts. What are our worst non-creature cards here? Probably, honestly, Gale's Redirection. Patient Rebuilding is also really slow. You have to spend 5 mana to play something that does not impact the game. Doesn't impact the board state in any way. And then it doesn't start drawing you cards till the turn after you cast it. So spend 5 mana to do nothing until next turn. And even then, it's card draw. It's not going to give you any more blockers or any more threats. Feels a little extra slow here. Could see cutting Sign in Blood here. And then we just have Thirst for Discovery as a draw 3, discard 1. We have Exclude as a potential draw 1. We have Spectral Sailor's mana sink ability to draw extra cards. Suspicious Stowaway to potentially draw extra cards. Still have a few ways, but not a ton to draw cards. I think that's fine with me. We'll cut Sign in Blood and Rebuilding. I probably should have taken that Karn, because I feel like I might end up cutting the Scales Redirection, as funny as the card is. I may end up cutting it here. So 4 more cuts. I really like all of our non-creature stuff. We do have Disruption here. We have 1 spell land. I don't think I want to cut a land. I think I'm cool with having 17 lands and a spell land, being basically an 18 land deck here, so that we can hit our 6 and 7 mana cards a little more efficiently, because they're very, very threatening cards. So I don't think I'm actually cutting a land here. So maybe Gale's Redirection, maybe like Elspeth's Nightmare. So obviously if your opponent doesn't have a 2-power creature on board, it's not going to do much. So it's a little sideboardy compared to the rest of our spells and tricks. Disdainful Stroke does not work very well against the super aggro decks, but even the super aggro decks in this format, like mono white aggro is going to try to play a turn 4 Wandering Emperor, or mono red's going to try to cast an Embercleave. Like, there's still spells this will counter in the aggressive decks. I don't know, I'm going to leave the Disdainful Stroke in, but I think these are the non-creatures I want, so we cut those 2. 14 creatures. We're going to have a low creature count here, but it's okay for the strategy. Lurrus doesn't do a lot in our deck. It can bring back Aetherborn, Shambling Gas, Spectral Sailor, Suspicious Stowaway, but it can't bring back like a ton of cards, and it's a little difficult to cast double black on turn 3. Does make our Gray Merchant better, because it's another black card in the deck. Really like the instant speed creatures with all of our instant speed spells. Don't want to cut any of those. Maybe Graveyard Trespasser over Lurrus. So one of these 2 gets cut. They're kind of similar. They gain us some life. Champion of Wits. Maybe a cut as well. Not sure Gray Merchant's actually that good in this deck either. I could see cutting like Lurrus Gray Merchant here. Cutting down on the black. Even if we're going to cut down on the black, we can maybe even cut the Aetherborn. Cut down on all of our double black cards, so we only need double black turn 5, turn 6, and then we can run a higher quantity of blue sources. Sure, let's not go for the Gray Merchant Dream here, but now I need to put another cheap blue card in, preferably. Or an Elspeth's Nightmare, that's fine. Don't like that we removed one of our 1 or 2 mana cards here that much, but I do like that we dropped the double black cards from the deck. You know what? I've ended up with this extra card slot here, and I'm not going to put Aetherborn back in, and I still have some concerns about Elspeth's Nightmare. Elspeth's Nightmare would probably be better than Gale's Redirection, but you know what? That might just be more fun. Well, I don't know. If you think of this is kind of similar to any of our late game bombs, where it's just like it's going to win the game later in the game against slower decks. Again, I feel like that's kind of covered with Gearhulk, Coven, Horror. But whatever, we'll put Gale's Redirection back in. Best build of this deck probably has Elspeth's Nightmare still in here, maybe. But it definitely would have been taking Karn over Gale's Redirection. If this were the exact same deck, but I had 1 Karn and 1 less Gale's Redirection, I think it's a better pile. But it still looks like a pretty good deck here. Very interesting one. By far the most controlling thing I've played in the format. Actually kind of mid-rangey because we do still have a mountain of creatures. It's not like we're a full control deck here. So I won't, hopefully I won't be bored out of my mind in the games. But yeah, I think this is going to be the deck. One thing I forgot before we get into the overview, quick look at the mana base. We have 16 blue cards, 8 black cards. Currently I set it to 8 blue sources versus 6 black sources. I guess it's 9 blue sources because we have ruins as well. And we have 3 sources that are either. So it's actually 9 black sources, 12 blue sources. That feels pretty good to me. 3 more blue sources than black sources, but still a pretty high quantity of black sources, so we can still turn 1 Shambling Ghast. Hit our double black on turn 5, 6 relatively easily. Yep, I think that's going to be the mana base, and that will be the completed deck. So here's a look at the final deck we will be playing with today. This is kind of a blue-black control deck here. It's not fully dedicated to control. We still have a relatively high creature count, so we're a little mid-rangey there. But we have a bunch of the controlling kind of spells. We have some great efficient removal like Infernal Grasp, Power Word Kill, and Fading Hope to slow our opponent down. We've got a few counter spells in here, Disdainful Stroke, Exclude, and Gale's Redirection, as well as some instant speed card draw like Thirst for Discovery, the big 3-for-1 or 2-for-1 piece of interaction, Salumgar's Command, Baral's Expertise to really slow our opponents down, get our own cards on the board for free, and then Alrund's Epiphany is just Alrund's Epiphany. We're just going to take an extra turn and make some birds. For win conditions in the deck, the way we're trying to win the game, it's going to be with just some big bomb 6 drops and 7 drops. We have Torrential Gearhulk, which is going to hit the board at instant speed and recast a counterspell or removal spell from our grave for free. Huge 2-for-1, and then it leaves a 5/6 body to start beating our opponent down with. We have the Hourglass Coven, the Mega Bomb from Baldur's Gate draft. Just putting 3 random hags onto the board that all have some pretty relevant abilities. And then the Hullbreaker Horror, moderately similar to the Gearhulk. It's going to be a big, gigantic creature that we play at instant speed, and then we start bouncing a bunch of their stuff as we're casting spells, so Hullbreaker is going to take over the game really quickly. In the mid-range of creatures, we've got a lot of creatures that are going to interact really well, help us keep us alive in the early game. Life of Chihiru Umezawa gains us a bunch of life, spits out a 2/3. Champion of Wits gives us some card selection, drawing 2, discarding 2, then trades off and eternalizes later. We've got some flash creatures like Obstructionist and Brazen Borrower to play at instant speed. Brazen Borrower also functions as interaction, bouncing and opposing permanents. So just a lot of creatures to try to clutter up the middle of the game. Trade off a little bit, interact a little bit with whatever our opponent's trying to do, just kind of keep us alive until we can get our counters and removal or our big late game bomb. So it's like a pretty solid deck here, and I'm very happy to see how it goes as we head into game 1. Here we are in game 1. This hand's a little bit slow, but I do have the potential to Shambling Ghast into playing Junji a turn early. We can foretell this Alrund's Epiphany while we aren't doing anything else, and we're on the draw here to try to hit some more plays. I'm going to keep this. I am banking on the Shambling Ghast here, but our first draw is very nice, the Infernal Grasp. So now we have a removal spell. If push comes to shove and our opponent starts off aggressively, well, that's a Luminarch Aspirants. That is probably just going to get Infernal Grasp before it gets any bigger. Yeah, I'm just going to do that right now. I might as well offer the trade of the Shambling Ghast into it. Alright, let's kill that. Three mana from our opponents. White and green for sure. They drop a Cultivate here. They do have a white, blue, green Triome. Doesn't necessarily mean they're playing blue, and they just pulled out another green and white source. I mean, as you can see from our deck, we've got a blue, black, green Triome, but we're just blue, black. Alright, hopefully they don't cast anything massively impactful here, because we get to hold up our counterspells next turn. This is the one awkward part of going for the Infernal Grasp turn 2, is it made it so I didn't get to have an untapped blue source this turn because I had to play the tapped land. Alright, we could have countered that because the way that X spells work now is once it's on the stack, the mana value is whatever you put in for X, so this counts as a 5 mana value spell. So I could have stroked that. Which is a little sad, and them bouncing the Ghast is a little rough. But luckily, that means it's a lot easier to just hold up a Disdainful Stroke here. Let's get our treasure. That is going to be pretty valuable. Alright, we'll stroke the AO the Dawn Sky then. Do hit a land for turn, which is very nice. I would rather pay the life for that than use the treasure to play Junji. Could play the Hourglass Covenant instead here, though. I like having this treasure around for Epiphany. This might be a little greedy here, but I'm just going to drop the Midnight Sky here. Hope I get to have this treasure for Alrund's Epiphany in the future. Alright, Llanowar Visionary, that's fine, just a mana dork. Dryad Greenseeker, similar card draw engine, it draws them through any lands on the top of their deck. Could play Coven here. Now that we know we're not Epiphanying next turn, I could also just hold up Gale's Redirection. I take 7 on the crackback. I guess I can just not attack and hold up Redirection. If I had 6 natural lands here, I'd probably just go for Coven. But since I have to pop the treasure and I kind of want it for Epiphany, I'm just going to hold Redirection, which is definitely greedy, but there's a couple different factors that make me want to do that. It's not just that I think I can get something countered here, it's also that I don't want to spend the treasure. Alright, now I can cast a free OG in the future. Okay. So OG is when I cast my second spell. When you cast your second spell each turn, exile 1 creature you control, bounce it. It's really good with Hourglass Coven. The sad part about it, though, is I can't bounce the Coven, because if I play the Coven and then the OG, it won't trigger, and if I play the OG and then the Coven, it'll bounce something before the Coven resolves anyway. I could go OG Epiphany, and then next turn try to double spell if I'm lucky. Land Hullbreaker Horror, oh my god. I need 8 mana to double spell next turn. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'd have to pop it all for Epiphany here. Maybe it's just OG Coven X and then pass. I feel like I'm supposed to Epiphany here though. I think I need the land and the horror if I want to play the horror, because I obviously need the land for the 7 mana spell. Okay, this isn't going to line up perfectly, but it's going to be fine. I think it's still the strongest thing we can do. Oh my god, owner's control! Oh no! I needed to bounce nothing there. Still in a great spot. I was gonna say, I don't gain that much by bouncing OG, so I'm not that excited by the whole bounce play. I lose a lot by bouncing OG. I didn't realize that part. Remember, we'll put them to 8, drop an Hourglass Coven, and hopefully that's still enough. That was embarrassing, though. Do ward. Make them lose some life. Skeletons, let's make them lose some life. So they all have ward where they have to pay life to target them, and at the beginning of our upkeep they have to lose life, discard a card, or sack a permanent. That was such a bad OG play. I was supposed to attack with Junji and then bounce Junji. But I was like, might as well gain 2. Turns it to the owner though. Alright, they got me for 4. I've been playing with too many alchemy cards. Oh, that was so not good. Sanctuary Warden, that's a pretty annoying blocker. Hullbreaker Horror is really good against that, at least. And Junji has Menace. Oh wow, they're gonna double spell with OG now. The OG bounce might have cost us this game. Very nearly have lethal this next turn. They didn't have OG. Sack their 1/1, I guess. Alright, well, I'm gonna play an instant speed Hullbreaker Horror. And we're gonna use the Horror to bounce the Sanctuary Warden, all that stuff. Alright, they're gonna try to draw a card off Greenseeker, they see nothing. Land for turn, Ren and 7. They're gonna have so many flying blockers.
The trees can fight their own battles.
I hope I draw another spell to go with this stowaway, that would be really good. Oh, they're gonna attack with Sanctuary Warden. That is bold, and I'm very happy to see that. So now we can just attack with Junji. We just kill the reach creature and attack with it. Could block with a 1/1 flyer here if I want, because they're not going to get in anyway. They're not going to get through the 2/3. Oracle of Moldiah. Oh my god, and they get to flicker the Sanctuary Warden. Why does this work like that? Why is this in the alchemy set, but it doesn't conjure a duplicate of the spell? God damn it. It's from the alchemy set and it doesn't use the conjure mechanic that gets around the stupid give your opponent the OG back thing. I guess it's because it's from the Commander set. It was printed in the Commander version. And not the, not the actual alchemy version, but that is really frustrating. It's so instinctual to play a card from the Baldur's Gate set and assume it's conjuring because it's in the alchemy set. That's not what it does. Put them to 3 instead. What does Ren 7+ to do? They can get lands into hand. They just put lands out. They can't make another blocker right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Block Hullbreaker Horror with a ton of things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, that doesn't seem good. Just attack them, and then if we hit a spell for Hullbreaker Horror, we can bounce their stuff again to get in for the last Junji swing. We also have an unblockable creature on the board now with Suspicious Stowaway. Top card of the deck is just Mana Ramp. It's not going to search for a spell at this point. They'll have too many lands out, so top card of their library doesn't matter right now. Unless they have an Ulamog in their deck. Because then they get their 10th land and they search their library for a 10 mana spell. Feels pretty unlikely. But yeah, in order to do that, they'd have to like cast Sanctuary Warden first to draw a card, then cast the Seek the Wilds. Yep.
Violence will be met
Sanctuary Warden is
with
back.
violence.
Draws them 2 cards. They're going to play a land. So now if they do the settle thing, they get an 11 drop. Yeah, they're just going to cast something else from their hand here. They've got a lot of mana. They have 5 up thanks to Llanowar Visionary with 4 mana up in the lands. Lucamina. They don't have the mana to specialize her. They're going to gain 2 life here. If I hit any spell, I bounce Sanctuary Warden and kill them. Well, they do have the mana to specialize Lucamina now. I don't think any of the forms matter. No, there's a flying and a reach one. Alright, Lucamina is gonna block. Used all their hourglasses and skipped into combat there, but they can still do stuff main phase 2, so it's all good. Alright, draw some lands. They did have an Ulamog in their deck. It is in the grave. Oh, they're done. They're just over it. Okay. I was gonna say, I think they're still in it, because I don't have lethal on board. They spend 3, they specialize Lucamina to the flying lifelinker. Then I'd have to be able to cast 2 spells next turn, so it's pretty draw dependent if I can kill them next turn. They're at 6 cards in library though, so they not only have to survive, they have to find a way to break through my board state. So, I mean, it's a fair scoop. And no matter what, I get to hit with Stowaway. 1 each turn. All right. I'll take it. That was definitely not played ideally. That was pretty embarrassing. The big punt being flickering the OG when it was my opponent's OG. I was so like, I don't know, I'm just correlating the 2 things together where like it's from Baldur's Gate. I know because I've drafted Baldur's Gate a lot, and I see that card running around in the Alchemy Baldur's Gate draft pods, and I am so used to everything else in that format, Viconia being the one that I've cast a ton, making it so you exile a card from their graveyard, but then you conjure a duplicate into your hand to cast. So if you would flicker your conjured copy, you would still just keep it because it's yours. It's your conjured duplicate. Gut works the exact same way. You exile their creature when you fight something, and then you conjure a duplicate of the exiled card. So it is just really weird and not very instinctual to me that the counter spell that exiles an opposing card does not conjure a duplicate into your hand or conjure a duplicate into exile for you to cast. But I understand why it works that way. It's because that card is technically from the Commander Baldur's Gate set. I want to explain why I made the big doofy play. The card's from the Alchemy set where every time you take an opposing card, you conjure it, but that is the one that you don't actually conjure your own copy. You're actually playing your opponent's copy, so that's why I thought that would work that way, and I almost punted the whole game by doing that. So I'm going to keep this hand. This one is, I think, a little better than the first hand because I've got a little more cheap interaction. We definitely need to draw into other spells, but that's the same with pretty much any hand in the game. We've got our late game win condition, our Coven, so we really just need something for the middle here after we survive the first few turns. And luckily Fading Hope can probably let us scry here if we bounce a cheap card. And there's a Jwari Disruption. That is a great one. That is a very, very nice addition to this hand. Aetherborn Vampire. Well, I mean, at this point, they just know I have Disruption because I waited so long. They know I have a counter spell, so I might as well do that. Yeah, I was thinking about maybe Power Wording it. I don't think I was going to Fading Hope that. I'll Fading Hope their 3-drop if they play one. Black, red. They don't play a 3-drop. Get my second black source for Coven, but I don't need it yet, so I'll still just play the basics. I like to wait on my pathways till the last possible opportunity when I know for sure which color I need. Phoenix of Ash. I'd rather put that in their hand than kill it here, because they can recast it from their grave later. And I get to scry by doing this and see if I get my 6th land. Infernal Grasp is not my 6th land, but it's a very good card. With Hourglass Covenant in hand, I think I dumped that on the bottom. Looking for the 6th land that badly. Thirst for Discovery is the draw. Alright, now we'll definitely play the Murkwater Pathway. Hold up all our instants. 5 mana from our opponent. They're probably just playing Phoenix again. Shambling Ghast. Alright, you got it. Playing Phoenix again. They only have one other card in grave right now, so this is probably dealt with for now. It's Thirst for Discovery. Hopefully I draw 2 lands here, so I only have to discard 1 card. If I draw 3 cards and one's a basic, that'd be kind of awkward, because then I'd have to discard the 2 non-basics to make sure I drop Coven. Alright, we'll drop Coven here, and then next turn... If I draw land, I'll go Junji, hold up Stroke, and if I don't draw land, I'll probably just Champion Wits, hold up Stroke. I would like to hold up the Disdainful Stroke. Ideally. Because I'll have the mana to put some kind of threat on the board and hold it up. Alright, Coven, let's go. I like this effect a lot. Creature opponent controls -2/-1 until your next turn. I could kill their Ghast, I guess. Or I could get Ward. Oh my god. Never mind. There's a Mill Hag? That's so rude. Mill them 5 and then exile their graveyard so Phoenix of Ash never gets to come back? I just like to exile their graveyard part of this. I didn't even need the mill 5. Yeah, I mean, I'd rather exile their Phoenix of Ash from their graveyard than kill their Shambling Ghast on board. Because it's just a 1/1 and they get a treasure when it dies anyway. Whereas the Phoenix of Ash will be a 3/3 flying haste with fire breathing. If it ever escapes from the underworld. Alright, they're probably blowing up some hags here. So we did not choose the ward. Even if we did, they're at 20 life, so they would still just blow them up. Alright, yeah, Glorybringer's gonna blow one up. They're gonna blow up the Mill Hag. So at least the Ceaseless Torment's still here, which is still pretty good. Sack Ghast or discard a card. You could also just take 3, they're still at 20 for now. Yeah, they'll just take 3 life of Toshiro Umezawa. Well, goodbye, Shambling Ghast. Yeah, I mean, that feels worth it. Probably do it post-combat, though. So I get in for 6 damage here. I don't know, maybe they're planning on chump blocking this turn. If that's the case, I just Champion of Wits post-combat. Okay, they are not blocking here, so let's go Life of Toshiro Umezawa and kill the Ghast. They get their treasure token. Then I could Champion of Wits, hoping to draw 1 land here. Draw 2 cards, I discard... I'd have to discard Junji, though, wouldn't I? Yeah, if I want to hold up Disdainful Stroke that badly. I actually don't like my discard options here. I'm not going to drop Champion. I probably should just get more power on this board, try to close out the game faster. They're down to 11, but... Let's see. Fatal Push on Hag of Ceaseless Torment. Oof, now I only have a 3/3 on board. Yeah, I should have just played the Champion. Probably just play Champion and Mill too. Keep Junji and Stroke. Just not hold up Disdainful Stroke that turn. Kobold Warcaller, they can give their other creatures in hand haste. Never mind, I was always correct to hold up Disdainful Stroke. Kill the Warcaller. I can't hold up Borrower and play Junji this turn. They can bring back Phoenix of Ash. Not a big deal. I can cast a Borrower and block. Glorybringer is a big deal, though. We want to get rid of that because it's going to kill our hag for free. So am I on... Maybe I'm on Bounce My Own Coven. Can this bounce my own card? No. Dang it. This only bounces opponent's permanents, so I can't bounce my own Coven. So, I mean, they kill the Hourglass Coven unless I throw Glorybringer back into their hand when they move to combat. I think I just passed then. They move to combat, I bounce Glorybringer and cast the Borrower. Junji wouldn't be bad on this board at all. It's going to be really hard for them to attack with the Glorybringer, but we can play it next turn. Okay, we have to do this before they declare attacks. Now they just hold the Phoenix of Ash back so they can block our Brazen Borrower with it. Or our Hag. Graveyard Trespasser. Well, I know what that's exiling. Sure, trade one of these into the Phoenix. This is Ward, discard a card as well, so if they want to blow this up with Glorybringer, they have to discard a card. I think I'm on Champion Graveyard Trespasser then. Again, Champion's just going to be a 3-mana 2/1 that mills 2. I guess I get to choose not to do it. Okay, I thought it was... Okay. I thought it was mandatory. Since it isn't mandatory, we could just play a 2/1. So I'll do that. Exile Phoenix of Ash. And I will not draw. Alright, and they scoop them up. That's going to be 2-0 now for our blue-black. Our blue-black control deck. I don't know why my brain is just not accepting. This is kind of a control deck. Lots of counters, removal. I guess it's more tempo. We're putting our own threats on the board and then stopping everything our opponent does while we close out the game with our threats. But it's also reliant on big late game win conditions after just holding our opponent off in the early game, which is pretty control. It's basically a control deck. You can play both facets there. Alright, we got 3 drops. A little bit slow, but not terribly so. Volcano. Big green mossy volcano on the board. Opponent's got some fancy sleeves. These are the Constellation sleeves. Is that the blue god? Is that Thassa? Inquisition of Kozilek. That's unfortunate. I've got multiple 3-drops. Discard my Champion of Wits. No, they didn't discard the Champion of Wits. That would have been funny. Should be really, really easy to figure out what your opponent has foretold in blue in this cube. Technically, they put Saw It Coming in the cube, which is fine, but it's like 99% of the time just going to be Alrund's Epiphany. No Priest of Oblivion. That's a lifelinker. That's kind of annoying. I do want to draw 2, discard 2, and I might discard this Gale's Redirection, then cast it out of nowhere with Gear Hulk later as my plan for using that. Yeah, we'll drop Redirection. Might even drop the Sailor, because I need 6 lands here, and these are my 5. It's a little awkward, but I'm going to go for it. Still need another land after this. I also have a powerful 7-drop to get to. We do need lands pretty heavily. So just discard these non-lands. Hope our opponent can't play super aggressively here. So no Priest of Oblivion, super solid card. 2-mana 2/1 Menace lifelink, even if you don't do all the kicker nonsense. So that is going to be impossible to race here. It's going to keep draining us for 2 life each turn, which is pretty great. Alright, they're going to play their own Triome, the red, black, white one. And then a Charming Prince. They can flicker their Null Priest to hold it up as a blocker, or they can just gain 3 or scry 2. Scry 2 it is. Uh-oh, that's another 7 drop. Got both the 7s in hand and one of the 6s. Could have some problems here. I actually know we have Gear Hulk in hand, so they know when we have the 6 mana up that we're going to Gear Hulk and Gale's Redirection. They know that that's what we're doing that turn, so they're just going to never play anything from that point on, just use their current onboard threats to kill us. Snap block, stop as much damage as we can with our 2/1. Ranger of Eos. They get a couple 1-mana creatures from their deck. Mikaeus and Lunarch Veteran. I hate that Mikaeus counts. That's so brutal. That is absurd. Well, we made it to our 6 mana, but I don't know if we did enough in the meantime to survive this beatdown this turn. You take 5, they get to drop a Mikaeus and a Lunarch Veteran. At worst, they drop a 3/3 and a 1/1. We can't respond. That being said, I'm going to play high impact cards for the rest of the game, but they are 100% playing around our redirection with Gear Hulk. They're 100% playing around our Gear Hulk, so our Gear Hulk's actually just going to be a 5/6, and that's kind of it. But I'm still going to have to go for it here, because I'm going to need to block. So yeah, if they see what's coming here, so they probably just go straight to combat and just attack all. If they cast literally anything here, I'm just going to misdirect. I don't care if it's the Lunarch Veteran, I'll still misdirect. Alright. All State of Life's Bounty, sure. Because they know what I can do here. So they're not going to play anything that impactful. Let's just make sure we can get at least 1 card down here. Very surprised they cast anything at all. Maybe they get to exile the card in our graveyard? Nope. Wait, maybe? Last opportunity? Okay, no. Alright, cool. So we have an All Seed of Life's Bounty that we can cast. Now we have a 5/6 blocker. Maybe they blow it up here. They're trying to bait it out with a small spell so that they can blow it up pre-combat with a sorcery speed removal spell. Nope. They just wanted to resolve Banalish Marshal pre-combat, so they were going to cast all of their 1-mana spells and then try to get Banalish Marshal down after that. Alright, we're at 7. Can Epiphany here, so that next turn I can play Horror and All-Seed and bounce a card, bounce Mikaeus maybe? Kill their Marshal with Gear Hulk here if they block. 6. Yeah, 7 mana, go for Epiphany here. If they don't block, I'm just going to take an extra turn after this turn anyway. Okay. Epiphany. Brazen Borrower. That is so good with Hullbreaker Horror. Can't really do it right now because I need the 1-mana spell to play with it. Currently. Drop the Hullbreaker, drop All-Seed. I think I do probably bounce Mikaeus here. Now they can't really attack in. I could send in Gear Hulk again. But now I'm a little less fine with the trade of Gear Hulk into Marshal. Because we have Brazen Borrower coming next turn to just bounce so much stuff. And do it at instant speed where we know we can protect our Gearhulk and our Horror and stuff if they don't have removal this turn. Does Embalming count as casting a spell? No, Embalming does not count as casting a spell, so we're not going to embalm our Champion of Wits for a while, because we're going to just keep bouncing things with our Hullbreaker Horror. Alright, they're going to March of Wretched Sorrow our 1/1. Very happy that that was the removal in their hand, because that is just not going to be enough to kill a 5, 6, or 7, 8. So we dodged a bullet there. Lunarch Veteran is getting cast. Pass the turn. This is a trick, but alright. I think I play around a trick killing Hullbreaker Horror, but I don't think Gearhulk is that important. Hullbreaker Horror is incredibly important, though. So I feel like I do like this, so we can get the Menace out of here, and we play around getting combat tricked to death and play around Horror dying to a trick. I think that's what we do. Sap Vitality. Sure. So, I mean, Nullpriest still dies. Alright. Life of Toshiro Umezawa. -1/-1 the Veteran and bounce the Marshal. Then I still have Brazen Borrow at instant speed. And I get an attack in with Hullbreaker Horror. Sure. This card's really overperformed. I thought I was just overvaluing it because of Kamigawa, but it has done things. It has done great things. I don't actually want to bounce the Phantom. I'm going to kill that with the Life of Toshiro Umezawa later. Bouncing Ranger of Eos isn't, like, perfectly ideal, but they might not have more one-drops in the deck. I would almost rather keep this as an instant speed way to bounce something just to be really safe. That's 3 mana to do that. 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Can't play Champion and hold that up. But I'd have 2 blockers up and they're black-white. They're not going to have much haste. This is a little bold, but I'm going to go for the Champion here. Not have that up as an instant. I could draw 1 mana instant. I have 1 Fading Hope, and we did draw it. Beautiful. I like to keep Disdainful Stroke. That seems powerful at this point in the game. Alright, I'm just going to hold up this Fading Hope, play it really safe. We have the 1 mana instant to bounce their stuff. That'll bounce 2 of their things, because it bounces something and Horror bounces another one. It's a really good draw from the Champion of Wits. Thoughtseize. I guess we just let it resolve. Because I'd have to bounce my own card to put that back in their hand, and then they would just recast it anyway. So we can't really do anything about that. Okay, they get rid of the Fading Hope, so we no longer have our interaction. This turn, the shields are down. Circuit Mender. It's a 5/3 thanks to Sap Vitality, and every time we bounce it, they get to draw a card, and every time they replay it, they get to gain life. So that's one I think we're just trading into or blocking. Machias the Lunarch. Hullbreaker Horror bounces our own stuff too, right? Yes, it does. That is nasty. So we're going to play Shambling Ghast and bounce our own Memory of Toshiro. And kill Machias. Bounce our own Ghast so we can bounce things again later. If we need to, because I don't want to bounce something this turn. And now we're holding up Disdainful Stroke, Brazen Borrower. And a 4/4 to block the Circuit Mender. Yeah, they're over it. They see the writing on the wall. It's just going to take a while to finish the game up. So that is 3-0 now for the Dimir control deck. Was not expecting to win that one. Huge comeback just by keeping those lands, making sure we hit those really big late game plays. Even without playing some spells in the middle there, they were just so impactful. We really got there, and it was all thanks to Alrund's Epiphany. We needed that extra turn to be able to cast the Horror and bounce something in the same turn, play the Horror and the Alseid. And yeah, the Alseid was really important too, so the Gale's Misdirection off of Torrential Gearhulk so that we could play their 1-mana card against them with a Hullbreaker Horror on board. That was nice. That was a nice game. 3-0 heading into Game 4. Here we are in Game 4. We are so far undefeated. 3-0. I really like this start. Suspicious Stowaway into Thirst for Discovery into Brawl's Expertise. If we can find the black sources with our card draw, like Thirst and Stowaway are both drawing us cards, then we have got the Hourglass Coven to try to close out the game. So this could be a very nice hand here. Opponent is on blue. They start with a Seagate Reborn and an Island. So far mono blue. See if they have the counter unless you pay 1, the Jwari Disruption here. They have an Opt to scry 1 and draw a card. And then anything else here? Nope, just pass turn. Blue-white is the deck from our opponent. Maybe a Banishing Light for Stowaway. No, they're going to let it stay on the board. Got a lot of 3-mana things to do, no 4-mana things to do, so I think I'm going to play the Hall on turn 4. I'm going to make sure I could play Thirst for Discovery or the Borrower itself if that's the best play this turn. Seal Away. I can't counter that, but I can put it back in their hand so I can guarantee that I get the card draw this turn. That might be worth it. Just make sure I get the card draw. I should have played this land post combat, because then I could have played my tapped land this turn. Just get our card draw, so we go up a card there. Yeah, that was really rough. Should have played land post combat. It's like, what were the odds I was going to have to play Thirst for Discovery or Brazen Borrower during that combat? Okay, we've got an Epiphany to foretell. We attack with Werewolf again, but I don't have a counterspell for the Seal Away this time, so we just kind of let it happen. Which is probably just fine. Or I could just not attack because I know they have the mana up for it and just wait to attack until when they don't have the mana up for it. I'm going to play the Hall of the Storm Giants this turn and then hold up my 3-mana spells. Alright, they still got that Seal Away waiting for a rainy day. Elite Spellbinder. It's annoying, but I can't do anything about it. I hit my Baral's Expertise or something. Actually, Alrund's Epiphany would be a bad one, then I can't foretell Epiphany. That's actually really horrible. Elite Spellbinder is really good against Alrund's Epiphany, because then I don't get to foretell it and get the 1/1s out of it. But they could choose Hourglass Coven. They're going to choose Baral's Expertise. That's fine. That is fine. That was my initial guess. So they've still got the seal away mana. Let's do our Thirst for Discovery. Life of Tashiro Umezawa was a big draw. Five mana here, so we spend the 2 on this and we still have Borrower held up and Disdainful Stroke, but they know about the stroke now. I don't know how, but Life of Tashiro Umezawa has somehow just been like nuts in this cube for me. Again, not attacking because they've got the seal away up. At some point, they're probably going to have to tap out for something big, and then that'll let us get the extra card draw off Werewolf. So honestly, we have literally no other threats for them to exile. If they exile the main witch or one of the 3 witches, that's not, I think, as big of a deal as them exiling our Werewolf. Just gonna hold 6 mana up here. Sure, here's a Borrower. Dismiss, draw a card and still have seal away up. That is perfect counterspell. I don't have a way to counter their seal away, so if I buff Seafaring Werewolf, it's not actually going to do any extra damage here. So I just gain 2? Because I'm just going to attack with the Werewolf and they're just going to seal it away. Okay, we need another black source. Shambling Ghast can get us there. We only need 2 up for Stroke and 2 up for Grasp, which we'll have even after foretelling the Epiphany. I feel like I don't need Grasp that badly, so I'm just going to play the Ghast and hold up Stroke. Did I double spell? No, I foretold and cast 1 spell, so this is still going to be on the correct side next turn. Alright, they have the mana up for Sublime Epiphany or something, so I'm not going to cast my Coven or my Epiphany or anything until I have 2 extra mana up to cast it and hold up Disdainful Stroke. 1, 2, 3, we've got 7 mana. I'm 1 mana away from casting my Coven and having Disdainful Stroke up. I feel like I got way too hard by Sublime Epiphany. I guess that's not that bad. They counter our Epiphany and draw a card, but they don't get a clone of anything on the board. They can bounce one of our creatures, but that's fine. They're all really cheap. Maybe we just go for Alrund's Epiphany post-combat here. Especially if we attack first, because then they might seal away and they don't have the mana up for the 6 mana Sublime Epiphany. I guess if they have the Gale's Misdirection thing, that would be pretty bad. Play our own Epiphany against us. So, okay, so they have 5 mana up, so we know it can't be Sublime Epiphany, the 6 mana gigantic counterspell thing. If that even is in this cube, I'm not sure. Alright, let's see if our Alrund's Epiphany gets Gale's Misdirection. Your opponent does seem to be running like every counterspell. Ideally, this is just some regular counterspell. It's just counter Epiphany, and then we'll pass to them. Wandering Emperor. Okay, that's not a counterspell, so it's very okay.
Ready to lose. May your blades.
We get a Vigilance Samurai. We get to kill the Wandering Emperor in the sky here. We can even Fading Hope the Samurai and then kill there. Now we know we get to Coven, and they're not going to do anything about it because they have 1 mana up. Yeah, we'll Coven. Ward or make them discard? Let's make them discard. I feel like if they're going to get out of this game, it's going to be with a Wrath effect. So I don't think I need Ward here. send the Ghast to Emperor also, because if it dies, it kills the Samurai anyway. Cool. And say this plays around them having a Fading Hope to bounce one of the 3 creatures that's attacking the Wandering Emperor. Then she still takes 2 damage and dies. I guess they could go like block the Ghast and bounce the 1/1 there. All right, Fading Hope, our main hag here. Our main coven. Recast it after the Wrath. Hopefully draw land here so I can hold up Stroke. Beautiful. Now I can play Hourglass Coven and I'm holding up Disdainful Stroke. Again, I feel like they really are going to just need another Wrath. So I'm going to go the Tormenting Effect. I could double up on the Tormenting Effect. Sure, I'll just do that. Pick the rudest possible hags. 2 hags of Ceaseless Torments. Good thing they are not legendary. The main one is, though. Oh, that's rude. You can play an Hourglass Coven Historic Brawl deck. I don't know how I feel about that. That's an evil Historic Brawl deck. If we untap with just at least 1 hag of Ceaseless Torment, still in the lead here, I think. But our opponent has the card advantage. They have 4 cards in hand, we only have 2. But they need to be good cards to get through this Hourglass Coven. And it looks like no response yet. They don't have any man lands. Yeah, they're over it. They might have just now noticed which hags we got. We got 2 of the Hag of Ceaseless Torment, which is really brutal against the empty board. They could sack the Seal away and give me back my Stowaway, but otherwise they're taking 6 damage or discarding 2 cards, or it's not a great spot, and they're going to scoop them up. That's going to be 4-0, another victory thanks to the good old Alchemy Bomb rare, the Hourglass Coven. Here we are in round 5, we're 4-0, so a very solid record no matter what happens, and we've got a great curve here. I have Fading Hope for interaction for pretty cheap, and we've got a Stowaway on 2 and a Trespasser on 3, both of which are very powerful during the night and pretty solid during the day. Opponent starts with a Glasspool Shore, so they're on blue. Don't think I'll have to Fading Hope something turn 1, so I'm going to play Shambling Ghast instead. Unless they play a really good 2-drop here. Don't think I'll be playing Fading Hope. Maybe they will. Lotus Cobra. Ooh. Just draw straight gas. Life of Toshiro Umezawa. The actual MVP of this deck somehow. This thing has killed Elite Spellbinders, Lotus Cobras now. Absolutely brutal card. So rude. So rude just drawing it at the right times. I'm not that worried about the shakedown heavy, am I? I can just bounce it to their hand, make them recast it this next turn, and I can still play Stowaway for this turn. Yeah, let's just get extra damage in. And then we'll play Stowaway Fading Hope here. I can also just take 6, but I feel like I bounce it. That feels a little bold. Take 6 this early. I do need that land. I don't love that it's a tapped land, but it's fine. We have a 3-drop. So I should play a tapped land, play a 3-drop here. I am looking for another black source for Coven, but if we make it to 6 mana, it doesn't really matter what colors our sources are, because we can still drop a Gear Hulk, which is a huge deal. Alright, recast the Shakedown Heavy. I could just cash in this Shambling Ghast into a treasure token. But it threatens blocks really well. So I'm probably not going to do that. because I can just double block Shakedown Heavy with a 1/1 and a 2/3 or a 1/1 and a 3/3 because of the gas -1/-1 ability. So it kind of just shuts off the Shakedown Heavy. You get a Power Word Kill. That's a good one. Am I even discarding Graveyard Trespasser then? Definitely not discarding Coven. We're at 4 out of 6 lands. This feels wrong, but I might just discard that Power Word Kill. I don't need it for the heavy. And I want to play more creatures and get the better board state here still. I guess the benefit to discarding Trespasser is now I can just pass turn and then maybe I just get full card draw out of this if they don't cast 2 spells this turn. So I'm going to try that line. I could see it not working out for us though. It's probably better to just keep the Trespasser and play a 3/3 this turn. Karuga. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card for each other permanent you control with mana value 3 or greater. How about draw 0 then? Just get a 5/4. Okay, now we can keep drawing cards. We hold that off, and I have a great counter spell. Another great one. I can even cast that with Memory of Toshiro. The flavor text, adding a mana for an instant or sorcery means I can cast a Slumgar's command. Alright, I like how our line worked out. Getting the flipped werewolf is pretty powerful. Attack them for 2 unblockably every turn and just full-on draw a card each time we do that. Settle the Wilds. Counter a non-creature, return Karuka to hand? Sure, that's rude enough for me. Yep, this is evil. I'm just going to attack with everybody because we don't have Gear Hulk mana here. Because this doesn't tap for mana for creatures, just instants and sorceries. If this would tap for Gear Hulk, then I'd attack with everybody except the memory. But yeah, luckily now we have Exclude and Disdainful Stroke up. It just really feels like nothing can get through our shields. And we counter that, draw a card, and they scoop them up. They're so over it. It is going to be 5-0 for the Dimir control deck. Huge stuff from the Seafaring Werewolf. Here we are in Game 6. We are 5-0, still undefeated here. We've got the very nice turn 2 play of Suspicious Stowaway. Every game we've gotten this attacking it on turn 2 has been pretty nice for us. We also have the Infernal Grasp for cheap interaction, but I am scared of this matchup. They've got a cheap, just 1 mana, 2 power creature here, so grasping it is not going to be good. It can still come back from grave. And if they curve out on us, yeah, this could be a big deal. Thrall's Expertise is going to be our big way to try to get back into this game. I may even have to Infernal Grasp Jadar here just to keep us from taking the extra 3 every turn from that card. I do have to shoot Jadar. Hopefully we can bounce everything else they play in a few turns. Malakir Rebirth. Brutal. Not a card you see mega often, but it'll certainly get me there. So I wanted to wait to kill Jadar until they already declared the attack with the Decayed Zombie. That way they couldn't just decide not to attack with the Decayed Zombie. But that was brutal that they had to Rebirth that turn. On the plus side, that meant they didn't play any more creatures that turn. But this is still, I think, more than enough of good aggro creatures to kill us before we can recover. Especially with Ayara, good god, that is so good with Jadar. Every time they replace the Decayed Zombie with Jadar, they drain us for a life. And they can sack the Decayed Zombies to draw a card now. Feels like we're pretty much out of it here. If I don't block Gutterbones, I'm going to 7 life, and they have the life drain ability on board. If I do block Gutterbones, they don't get it back this turn. They'll have to wait. So I think I'm supposed to do that. We really hope to draw anything that costs 4 or less this turn. So we can do something to stem the bleeding. But it is not looking good at all. Spectral Sailor's something that maybe kills Jadar, I guess. But then we're taking 4 from the other cards, as well as a 5th damage from Ayara, or drawing a card off this Opportunist. It looks super, super bad for us. If we hit another card that costs 4 or less, we've got a tiny shot here, because the Surprise Sailor to kill Jadar is pretty big. We're going to go to 3. But then we bounce everything they have left. They have 2 creatures left. We bounce everything with Expertise. And play something if we draw something that costs 4 or less. And then we're just trying to survive to Hullbreaker Horror. Ayara means we're probably just dead no matter what, though. Because Ayara with that life loss. Yeah, if I just play Junji and pass, they play Gutterbones and 1 other creature and I'm dead because I go to 1 life. So I have to Expertise this turn, which means next turn they're just going to play Ayara and Opportunist. Just Ayara, Swamp, Opportunist. No. They didn't have a life drain effect here. It's possible we could stabilize this game like we did back in game 4, or whichever one that was. But I think Ayara is just not going to be a beatable card for us. Ayara counts herself? Good gravy. Yeah, I mean, they had it all. Had the aggro curve there. 5-1 it is. Heading into round 7. Round 7 here, another pretty slow hand. I think I'm still going to keep it. I'm just going to have to be pretty okay with discarding some high mana value cards in favor of lands. So turn 3, Champion of Wits, draw 2, discard, probably Gale's Redirection and something else. Maybe shouldn't even foretell the Epiphany, so I have the option of discarding that, but I have drawn a 4th land now. So we're at 4 out of the 6 mana we need for Coven. 5 out of the 6? Okay, we're probably discarding some lands. So I'm pretty sure we are not going to have to discard this Epiphany. We're against Rakdos. Not ideal for the hand that doesn't start till turn 3. Not ideal for Gale's Redirection either. Definitely looking for some more mid-range plays here against a Rakdos deck. Luckily, they're not playing anything till turn 3 either. They are on the play, though. On the play with turn 3 Warboss. That's going to be a difficult one to beat. See what we got with Champion of Wits here. Non-lands, non-lands, non-lands. A land and an Expertise. Expertise actually a pretty big deal. Kind of want to get rid of the Triome and a Swamp just in case I hit a 4-drop, because then I'll need play an untapped land each turn. Maybe I'm supposed to get rid of Redirection here, though, because on turn 5 I'm going to play Expertise. Probably Triome and Redirection are the picks. Next turn I play whatever I hit. The turn after that I play Expertise. And the turn after that I play Coven. I think I am going to get rid of Redirection. And we're keeping all the lands that we can play as untapped just in case we hit a 4-drop turn 4, because then we're going to go 4-drop, 5-drop, 6-drop. I actually don't have any 4-drops in this deck, now that I think of it. So I could only hit a 3-mana card next turn anyway. I guess I should have kept the Triome over Swamp. Play Triome on this next turn. Yeah, that's weird. Pretty sure I have 0 4-mana cards in the deck. Alright, that was not the perfect discards, but I do think we discard Redirection, because it's just not going to fit in. It's not going to slot in. We're not going to play it. We're going to have to play Expertise into Coven. And then we're going to play Epiphany the turn after that. Like, we have all of our plays lined up for quite some time. We just need to guarantee that we have the 6 mana to make it to the Coven. This is not looking ideal. Gonna get beaten down something harsh by these 1/1s. Do draw the Exclude, that's kind of cool. Maybe that'll work out for us as our play this turn. Hopefully they are a very creature-heavy deck here. Let's scry one with their Woe Strider, maybe trying to hit a land here. They did not hit a land last turn. So I would not be surprised if that is what they're searching for. One to the top. They liked whatever it was. Inquisition of Kozilek, that's hilarious. It was Inquisition of Kozilek on top, and if we didn't draw Exclude, and then it would have just been a completely blank Inquisition. And Lightning Bolt? Dang. That's a really bad turn for us. But we've got the Expertise mana now. The War Boss itself does not have haste, does it? Ooh, Fading Hope is good here. So I can Brawl's Expertise and Fading Hope this turn. So I bounce 4 of their cards. Yeah. I think I have to. And I get a Scry off the Fading Hope here. I guess I'm only taking 3 damage next turn if they recast War Boss. But I stop 1 of it by playing Fading Hope. I stop 1 damage and Scry 1. I think that this is worth it. Because if we get to 7, we've got crazy things to do, so we really want to hit to 7. I feel like I have to put all of Storm Giants on bottom, though. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Because if I draw that, then it's going to be land Hourglass Covenant. The next turn, I'm just going to play a tapped Hall of Storm Giants and nothing. I guess if the card after it is non-land, then that's good. But if the card after it is another land, that's pretty bad. If I leave this on the top and the card after this is a land, we have such a horrible turn 7. We're just playing a tap. Oh wait, no, if the land... No. What am I on about? Okay, no, we keep it. We keep... I don't know why that was so hard to see in my mind. So next turn, we're going to go Swamp Coven, right? And then we're going to have this in hand. If we top deck another land, it will be an untapped land to play it and play a spell. And if we don't hit a land, then that means we'll have a spell to play. So we'll just play a tapped land and whatever spell we draw into. Okay, War Boss is doing its thing. Now we go Coven. Is there any life gain here? Yeah, Hag of Siphon Breath could be life gain. Hag is just going to make them lose life. That's not good right now. Ward is good for us. I think I choose the life gain one first. Don't get the Ward one, though. These are all actually pretty bad for us. I guess Skeleton's probably more important than Scry here. To maybe get more blockers if they don't have the removal for these hags here. If they can destroy the main Hourglass Coven, this game's pretty over. Because then the other hags are 2/2s. They can attack with 2 2/2s and 2 1/1s this turn. Kind of have to just trade into the 2/2s. So fingers crossed. No more cheap removal here. They're just going to play some more creatures this turn and pass. Let me start gathering my breath, so to speak. Catching my breath. Maybe getting some Skelly Min. Alright, recast the Woe Strider. Dang it. That sucks. It's very bad. Now we probably are just dead. Take 4 here and go to 2 and still drain them for life, and then I feel like my biggest shot at victory here is top deck a land into Alrund's Epiphany, then I get an extra turn, which means I gain 2 more life if I have this hag down. And I have 2 more blockers. Yeah, that's kind of our only out here is basic land on top, so I'll play to that out and try to get the extra life here. I could try to get the extra skeletons instead. Feel like the life is better because I'm going to get 2 1/1 flyers still. Just do that, go to 2. Alright, basic land, fingers crossed, basic land. Life of Toshiro Umezawa might not be the end of it. I think it is, though. I can block Woe Strider if they have no more removal. Take 1, 2, 3, 4. Go to 6 with Life of Toshiro Umezawa. Or if they have no blockers, or if they have no removal, I can block Woe Strider. Take 1, 2, 3 and go to 1 if I kill one of their 1/1s. Would I rather permanently kill one of their creatures and go to 1, or kill nothing and go to 2? If I kill nothing, they get 1 less scry off of Woe Strider here to find the removal, because they can scry this goat away 100%, but they're not going to want to scry one of these goblins away unless I try to kill it with life. They probably just have removal in their hand already and it doesn't matter, but we'll see. Sure, get your 1 more scry. I'm already crossing my fingers and clenching my butts really hard for no removal. And I feel like if I don't kill a goblin here, even if I do, like I know I get to play the Epiphany next turn, I'm gonna have 0 creatures on board against 4. And then I'll play Epiphany, I'll have 2 creatures against 4, then I'll play Champion, have 3 against 4. I don't know, I feel like whittling down the creatures maybe gives me a slightly higher chance at victory, but it's like 1% over 0.5%, or more like 1% over 0.9%. Hall of Storm Giants showing up being the huge liability this game, unfortunately. I think we had a good shot if I could Epiphany that turn, but now I don't think we really have any shot. Yep. GG. 5 and 2. Brutal time to draw the Hall of Storm Giants. Maybe I should have scryed it to the bottom. 1 closer to an untapped land. Yeah, again, my thought process there was like, no matter what, we can cast whatever we draw into. Like if we draw into a land, then we just go land Epiphany. And if we draw into a non-land, we can still just play the Hall of Storm Giants tapped, so we know we have 7 mana the next turn and cast literally anything we drew. So, I don't know. I don't know about that one. Alright, we are on the play here with a really nice hand. We've got the Hall of Storm Giants immediately, which I'm just going to play turn 1. Because having that come and play tapped definitely killed us last game. So let's just get it in untapped immediately this game. Hardened Scales, turn 1. Alright, here's our Spectral Sailor. Now we've got a Triome. Get the tapped lands out of the way. Pelt Collector. When they play another creature, that'll get 2 counters, but I can counter their first creature with Exclude. But yeah, it gets 2 counters every time because of the Hardened Scales, adding an additional counter every time. So green-white counters deck here. Not planning on getting any counters, though, or they would have played a creature pre-combat, so maybe just no spell turn 3. That'd be nice. That's some definite breathing room for us. Yeah, sure. Now I have 2 counterspells up, and if I don't have to cast either, I can still just draw a card off of Spectral Sailor. Things are going pretty swimmingly here. Got the massive impact plays from turn 5 and onward. Once Upon a Time, yeah, you got it. Grab a creature or land from the top 5 cards of their library and put it into their hand. Ooh, Vorinclex. Well, I'll make sure to have a counterspell up turn 6, because that can be countered. Alright, hit us for 1 with Pelt Collector, which means probably no creature this turn either, and we'll just draw our card off Spectral Sailor. This is what I was saying about this being really powerful when you have counterspells in hand, because you get to hold them up, and then if you don't need to cast them, you get to just draw a card. Now they know we don't have counter mana up, but they can't really cast a creature at instant speed in green-white, so it's just like, kill the Sailor, I guess. Yeah, just kill the Sailor. That's fine. It is a lot better than it would be generally, though, because of the hardened scales. Unfortunately, they got 2 counters on their Pelt Collector. Alright, so I have Brazen Borrower, Disdainful Stroke, Exclude up here. I think we're going to take the 3, so we can counter their spell post-combat if they go for something that costs 3 or less, like a creature that costs 3 or less, we can still just counter it. Well, that's weird. Cast absolutely nothing? Well, I'll just bounce the Pelt Collector then. 6 mana here. That's enough for our redirection. Or Exclude plus Brazen Borrower. Wrenn and 7. I'd like to cast a Wrenn and 7. That's good enough for me. Oh, and I get to cast it for free? It's more than good enough for me. Big stuff from Gale's Redirection this game. That might just be game. Gale's Redirection for a Wrenn and 7 might just be it. That's nuts. For a free Wrenn and 7? 4 mana is enough to still hold up Exclude or Stroke, so let's foretell the Epiphany. Pass turn. They play a Mountain, go for the Vorinclex. Let's draw the card and counter this. Then we still have Disdainful Stroke if they have another Planeswalker or something. We've got a Salumgar's Command as well. Yeah, they're over it. That was brutal. That was brutal. That was the just good lineup of counter spells for all of their big plays they were going to try to win the game with. One of them even countering it and then casting it for our own field. Gale's Redirection on Wrenn and 7, I think that justified Gale's Redirection's inclusion single-handedly. I think we've actually won both games we casted in. Even when we redirected and just got a 1-1, that was really important to be able to cast a 1-1 alongside our Hullbreaker Horror in the other game. And obviously, Gale's Redirection to cast a Wrenn and 7 against your opponent is insane. So, Redirection, actually pretty happy I kept in the deck here. Anyways, here we are with the final boss. We're 6-2, win or lose. This is going to be the final game of Magic for today. We have 2 cheap pieces of removal. We have our late game plays. I'm going to keep this. We don't have any threats of our own, but hopefully our powerful interaction is enough to control the game long enough to survive. I don't like that my opponent starts with Mountain. As we've seen from our losses here, the aggro decks are by far our worst matchup. They're some of the best decks in the whole cube. And definitely really hard for us to race with this slower, more controlling deck. I think I have to just slam down the Champion of Wits here so we can hit our lands again for our big spells. Freaking Hall of Storm Giants back at it again, being a rude card. I might have to drop Hullbreaker Horror because it's so far from now. We definitely need the cheap removal. Play Graveyard Trespasser. Maybe we drop Horror and Redirection here, awkwardly enough. We already have one of our big late game plays, and we have other ones to draw into even without Hullbreaker Horror. Oh my god, Lelia. That is disgusting. That will draw them an extra card every turn potentially and just keep getting bigger. So we are going to blow that up next turn. I hope that's none of the card types for this. It's a Spirit Warrior. Yeah, we can blow that up with Power Word Kill or Infernal Grasp. hate the life loss so much. Save the life loss one for later, I guess. Just blow that up here. If I play Trespasser, I have a 3-3 on board, and Lelia attacks as a 4-4, so I can't afford to just play Trespasser. I have to kill it this turn, so I have to use Power Word Kill or Infernal Grasp. And we want to do it before they attack as well, so they don't draw another card. Oh my god, Fable of the Mirror Breaker, that is disgusting. 2-2 Goblin that taps for treasure, then they discard 2, draw 2, then they get a 2-2 Goblin that makes copies of their stuff. Alright, here's Graveyard Trespasser to gain us a little bit of life. We're at 5 mana now, 2 away from Epiphany and Champion of Wits. We're moderately okay here. Oh, they put Injury in grave. So they kind of just discarded 1 and drew 2 because they can cast Injury from their graveyard later on to kill something. Alright. Graveyard Trespasser is going to get the 2 for 1. It's going to make them discard an Ambergris and cast a Braid to kill it. So put in a little bit of work there. Professional Facebreaker. I do not like that. That is really good with the Goblin token as well. Counter target activated or triggered ability you don't control. If I counter the ability of Fable of the Mirror Breaker, it just stays on the board, right? I don't think it goes to the grave. I think it stays on the board. And then it'll just do it again a turn later. I don't know. I probably have to just play this and block this other goblin anyway. Would be interested to know if anybody knows if I counter this ability. I think if I counter this ability, theoretically this thing just stays on the board. This doesn't resolve, so this is still on board. Next turn it gets a 4th counter, and then it would still sacrifice itself. Oh wait, it would sacrifice itself, but it wouldn't do the 3 ability. The ability specifically says 3 in Roman numerals to do that. So if it has 4 loyalty, it just sacrifices itself and does nothing? Let's find out, whatever. I'm probably going to lose this game either way, so we might as well find out. Oh, it just dies right now. Yeah, because it says sacrifice it after 3. Okay, cool. Oh, wow. Hello, Obosh. Yeah, we need to blow up Professional Facebreaker. It's going to hit us for 4, because it's got an odd mana. So it takes 6 damage, or I kill Obosh and take 4 and they get a treasure. Oh, I hate this. Oh, I hate this. I guess I probably have to kill Obosh and take 4. Yeah, sure. Let's kill the Obosh. It stops slightly less damage this turn, but it stops a lot more damage in the future. But now they have a potential card draw engine because of their Goblin Shaman making them more treasures. No. Alright, that's not the 7th land for Epiphany, that's just game. Maybe not this turn, but that's going to cost us the game. Because we didn't get to play Coven here, we only had 1 black source. Don't get to play Epiphany to take the extra turn. I get to do whatever I can with Thirst for Discovery, but it's probably not enough. Taking another 4 next turn, we'll be down to 4 before we can cast anything that matters, and it's just 2 more islands, not even a 2nd black for Coven still. Brutal draws in the end here. Definitely going to cost us the game. Again, we might die this turn, but even if we don't, we'll be at like 2 life and there's no comeback. They can Crawling Barrens hit us for 6. They can actually activate Crawling Barrens attack with everybody. If they're not scared of a counterspell here, they just activate Barrens attack everybody, cast Injury to deal 2 to us. And we can't stop it. Unfortunate. I think this game was closer than it looked. Obviously we were on the back foot the whole time. But the 2nd swamp for Coven there, or just the 7th land for Epiphany, Like, we had some very real outs to this game, I feel like. Because if we hit any land there and then we go Epiphany and then the next turn we hit Swamp, if we go Epiphany into Coven, then I have 2 1/1 flying blockers and I have the Hag coming, and I still... I mean, I have the Epiphany mana now. Surprised they didn't kill us. They could have killed us with the injury, right? Yeah, just do 2 to your own creature and 2 to my face. I guess they wanted to play around a counterspell to be safe. Alright, well, we did get one more turn. Yeah, like, the fact that we didn't die that turn, imagine if we could have played Epiphany last turn. And we would really feel safe-ish. There's the Coven mana. Unfortunately, we're just dead to injury now because we didn't Epiphany 1 turn sooner. So now we can see exactly what would have happened if we Epiphanied 1 turn sooner. Probably better to pretend I have a counterspell than to cast Suspicious Stowaway here. Because maybe, again, they won't cast Injury. If they do cast Injury, we die no matter what, so maybe I can convince them not to by holding up blue mana. Highly doubt it. Yeah, so if we did Epiphany 1 turn sooner, we would be at 8 life with this board state. Actually, we'd be at 8 life with Stowaway in this board state. If we drew the land earlier. Yeah, I think we really could have came back. Unfortunately, though, not going to work out that way for us. Just 1 land draw off again. At least this time it wasn't Hall of the Storm Giants getting us killed. Either way, really great run from this deck. Very respectable run. I think this deck could have had a 7-win run. Also could have had a 4 or 5-win run. But it's definitely on the higher end of good. I think this is a pretty good deck. Not incredible, but pretty good. And I had a really fun time with it. We played that Gale's Redirection and we got to use it to really good effect sometimes, so that was really cool. Got to do that at least one time in this cube. Obviously, Torrential Gear Hulk, always a ridiculous card. Coven, ridiculous. Hullbreaker Horror is huge. Our mana base was pretty great. We got some nice duels. We picked them pretty early. We had the 6, 7, 8, 9 black sources. Obviously, regardless of that, sometimes we still won't draw the double black to get the Coven out when we need it, but that only happened one game thanks to taking these duels kind of highly. Yeah, deck's kind of got everything. Some good counter spells, some good removal spells, nice endgame bombs, a few nice cards to help us survive, like Leftshio Shambling Ghast. Pretty big fan of everything in the deck. I don't think anything massively underperformed. Raw's expertise wasn't quite as good as I'd hoped it would be, but it was still good. Infernal Grasp, that 2 life ended up being really painful, actually, sometimes, even though it is really cheap removal. So that was kind of bad. Fading Hope really overperformed. This was really important against the aggressive matchups, and even in the non-aggressive matchups, being able to bounce our own Hourglass Coven to save it from the Farewell that one game was absolutely huge. Hullbreaker Horror was ridiculous as well, and just having more cheap cards to work with the Hullbreaker Horror was good, so Fading Hope was actually great. Junji kind of underperformed. It was very filler. I think we cast it like 1 time, and I guess it did hit our opponent, but never felt like the best thing we could do. At that point, at like 5 mana, we want something really impactful that's not just like a really hard to block threat. We're more looking for cards that help us stay in the game than that help us kill our opponent. So this would have been better. Maybe even Grey Merchant would have been better, because that would be better at keeping us in the game, because it would have gained some life when it hit the board. So it's kind of an underperformer. Champion Wits as well, a little bit. But overall, everything worked pretty great. Everything worked how we thought. And a 6-3 run, not bad at all. We're going to be up in some gold, and we're going to get all of these cards for free in addition. A Lathless, a Memorial to Genius, and Sanctum Seeker. But that is going to end today's draft. That will end today's video. As always, if you're interested in seeing more of these, you can like, comment, and subscribe to let the YouTube algorithm know to send some more of these videos to you in your recommended feeds. Other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.